Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of what is now the AAA Show, formerly known as the SAS AAA Show. We will be expanding to covering Manitoba and Alberta AAA, maybe even tipping our toes into other provinces. With the expansion, I hope we can bring some more diverse episodes from players to coaches to scouts, advisors, and everything hockey. Today's guest will be Tyson Yaremko, first-year forward of the Swift Current Legionnaires. And after that, I'll dive into our newly improved commitments / signing segment, covering all the latest signings from around the three prairie provinces. Joining me for that will be JD from the SAS Sports Show. And with that, let's get to Tyson. Tyson, how's it going today?
Good. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Are you at home or are you still in Swift Current?
Yeah, I'm in Saskatoon right now.
How's life away from the team with training and everything going?
It's pretty good. It's kind of hard being away from the team right now. Well, it's mid-season, so it sucks being sent home, and whole training's going good. I skate as many times as I can a week, and I work out as much as I can right now.
So how's it all working with you being away from the team? How are you guys kind of coordinating everything?
Well, twice a week we have Zoom meetings with the whole team just to check in, see how everyone's doing, and yeah, that's basically it with the team.
How you use yourself or holding yourself accountable with everything?
Yeah, it's pretty hard. I try staying motivated just to get on the ice and work out. It's pretty hard not being able to play games and stuff and be with a team, but try doing the most that I can.
Are there any buddies up in Saskatoon that you're training with, or are you primarily solo?
I train with a couple like Raiden Zacharias and Roger McQueen and them, just some of the 06s, but that's about it.
Yeah, those are some of your teammates from your previous season in Saskatoon. Just kind of want to go into that, I guess. How was that season as a whole for you?
That was an awesome season. Definitely the best season that I've ever had. Too bad it got shut down early. We had a good chance of making it to the finals. And well, we had a great line out there, so it was good.
Yeah, you played with a handful of really good 06 players there, and you mentioned Raiden Zacharias and Roger McQueen, and they're probably going to go pretty high in the Bantam draft, I would assume, this year. Just what do you see in those kind of players?
Well, Raiden's a great player. He's an all-around good player. He has an awesome shot, and his skating's amazing. And Roger just has great IQ out there. He's a good playmaker with the puck, and he can bury when he needs to. And the other 06s are great, like Tyson Bushakowski. He's really fast, and he has a good shot, so yeah.
Yeah, Tyson seems to be a offensively gifted D-man. He had 59 points in 31 games last year. You led that team in scoring. Would you say you're more of a natural goal scorer, or would you contribute that to part of your teammates?
I would definitely contribute that to Roger and Raiden and my other line mates. They set me up for most of the goals, but I can score when I need to. But it's good to have those good teammates out there that I have good chemistry with.
How do you think playing with players such gifted as Roger and Raiden helped develop your game?
They helped a lot. They helped bring me up to speed. Since the first year Bantam, I didn't play AA, so it was harder to get back into that speed, and they just bring me up, and especially with their coaches, they did great. So
you mentioned that first year Bantam, you didn't play AA. How was that mentally for your mental strength, I guess, for going from that to your AA year?
It was definitely hard. Had to definitely get used to the faster speed in AA. Like I'm going in AAA too. It's definitely a lot faster, and it definitely made me a lot more concerned of how I'm playing.
You mentioned going into AAA. I know you didn't get a lot of games in this year. In the limited time that you got in, how was that transition?
It was hard. The first couple games, our team wasn't doing that good, but then we picked up, and well, it definitely got a lot easier, but it's still a lot faster paced game and a lot quicker.
You're drafted fourth round by Battleford and fourth round by Swift Current. Just kind of take me through those two draft processes and what was going through your head when you got the phone call.
During the WHL draft, I was kind of watching. I wasn't sure if I was going to fall into the draft, and then I saw my name pop up, and I was definitely excited, definitely in shock too. And for Battleford, same thing, definitely in shock to go to Battleford, and definitely for WHL since Broncos are close to home. So
you had a decent year statistically in your draft year. You did fall to the fourth round. I know it's just a position. Were you thinking maybe you could have went higher? Or does it really just kind of not matter to you?
it didn't really matter to me. I guess I fell where I fell, and I can still pick up. I still have a lot to improve on my game. So once I do that, definitely prove myself.
Would you be okay playing in a smaller market like Swift Current? I know a lot of players who are drafted by teams like Swift in those smaller markets. They tend to be a little hesitant in signing in those areas as they kind of want to play in the bigger cities. Just kind of give me your thoughts on that.
Well, Swift's nice. I got to explore it a little this year for Legions, and I wouldn't mind playing there. It's a nice city, nice people, nice school. So yeah, I wouldn't really mind playing in a smaller city, and it's close to home. So definitely be good.
Yeah, Swift Current. It's a tight knit community. It's one of those places that, walking down the street, if you're a Bronco, they're going to notice you. Did you get a chance to kind of see the atmosphere a couple of years ago when they're in the playoffs, just to kind of get a real idea of how the highs can be in that market?
Yeah, I didn't watch much WHL, but I can kind of see how much it's a lot, it's good out there because everyone knows everyone, and you're definitely supported by the community a lot.
Going to the Legionnaires this year, was that kind of a self decision, or was it kind of in conjunction with the Broncos? Kind of getting you down there, getting you a taste of the city?
It was definitely a self decision, but being with the Broncos definitely helped it to push me there a lot more, and it's good to be there while Broncos are there and kind of have more exposure there with them and be able to connect more with them.
Going into the COVID era now, I guess. I know a lot of players I've talked to over the past month or so have been kind of taking this time to work on specific parts of their game. Are there any areas in particular that you were really focusing on?
I'm definitely working on my shot to improve that, and my skating skills. I definitely need to improve those two the most, I feel, right now.
In the AAA, was there anything that you found was easier than you thought it was going to be with your transition?
No, not really. Everything was kind of a nudge up from AA. So it was definitely hard to compare it to that, but once you got used to it, it's definitely got a lot better.
It's been a tough year for a lot of you players, especially the seniors. I believe you have 4 seniors on your roster that are still kind of looking for jobs after the season. Tyler Council, Ashton Fishley, Noah Martin, Zane Winters drafted. I'm unsure if he signed. Tyson, I know you've only been there a short amount of time, but for any scouts or GMs that are possibly watching, what can you say about those players that you can maybe lobby for them to get these GMs to take a chance on them?
Definitely Zane and Noah. They're great goalies. They're definitely in the game, and Noah and Zane put their 100% into everything. And Ashton and Council. Ashton's a great defensive player. He can play up when he needs to for offense, and Council's very disciplined, and he can really put the numbers up when he feels like he needs to and when the team needs him.
Was the veteran presence on the team kind of a contributing factor to why you maybe signed down Swift Current? I know a lot of players from Saskatoon, they try to jump for the local markets. What was some of the other contributing factors that caused you to sign down there?
Well, it's definitely nice to get away from the atmosphere in Saskatoon and go play by the Dub team that I'm with, and some team that's close to my city anyways. So it was definitely nice to get out there in a smaller town too, to realize there's more to hockey than just playing the game. There's more of a community.
How was your first experience? I'm assuming it's your first experience with the whole building process.
It was pretty good. It was kind of everything I expected. I had a good family. We had a little billet brother. We got to play mini six every day. We played board games and stuff like that. So it was definitely a lot of fun out there.
Was it a little bit of a hard of a transition initially, or did they allow you to settle in pretty quickly?
Yeah, we settled in pretty easily. They welcomed us to the family good. It was pretty good.
For any Bronco fans watching, what should they be excited in for you being in one of their prospects?
Well, I can definitely go out there and bury some goals and contribute to the team a lot, and hopefully bring the community together a lot more.
Looking at their lineup, I don't know what it's going to look like this season. What are your thoughts heading into camp for next year, possibly cracking the squad?
Yeah, I feel like if I really put in my work, I can do it and just focus a lot. And I think we'll have a good team. They're in rebuild right now, so rebuilding since they won the cup a couple years ago. And yeah, hopefully it'll be a good season this year, whether I'm on the team or whether I'm not.
What are your thoughts about going to a team that's in such a deep rebuild like Swift Current? I know it can be some pretty hard years, as seen the last couple of seasons in Swift, but just want to get your take on that.
Well, I think it could be a good thing for me and the other players there, just push our limits a little more and try getting the team back on top. So it'll definitely be a lot harder, but once the team gets going with the good players, I feel like the new players there could really push the team back up top.
Looking at a year possibly having more L's than wins, as some rebuilding teams would have. How do you think mentally you would be able to power through that? I know it's not easy for a lot of players, but I don't know if you've ever been on a team that maybe produced a little less wins than L's, but how would you manage that?
Well, I would definitely manage that by just pushing through it and do what I can do as a single player and try getting my team back on top and try motivating them. Like my last couple seasons, besides Stallions, we weren't really a great team. So kind of had to go through that a lot and just push through it and do what I can and keep my mental health up.
Yeah, mental health. It's mental health and the mental strength of one's game is becoming more and more of an important factor. Looking at kind of comparisons, just kind of a little fun comparison I always like to do with my guests. Who would you say your NHL comparison would be?
Probably Matthew Tkachuk. Yeah.
What part of his game do you resemble the most?
Well, he can bury goals, and he's usually he's in front going for the dirty goals. So I feel like I can do that. And he's kind of a chippy player, and I kind of like being chippy out there, just get under people's skin. So yeah.
Yeah, playing on the edge is something these smaller markets like Swift Current would love to see, throwing their body around. Looking at, you said you're from Saskatoon, and what would it be like to be wearing a Bronco sweater in your hometown?
That'd be awesome. Definitely be different, representing a different team, but it'd be awesome to be back here representing a different team for the WHL.
If you were to say, let's say you're drafted by Saskatoon, do you think playing in a hometown would add to the pressure, or you'd be more comfortable at home, let's say?
I think I'd be more comfortable with the community that I know and them supporting me. It'd just give me more motivation to get out there and do what I can.
So you think that being in Swift then would maybe help ease that first year transition with Broncos?
Yeah, it would definitely help ease it.
Looking at this off season, it's unclear what this end of this season may look like if you guys will get back into action. What are your plans for the off season?
Definitely train almost every day and work out 5 times a week just to get my shot and my skating up and really improve my game this off season so I can hopefully make the Broncos in the future.
Are there any other sports that you play to kind of just stay loose and kind of get away from hockey a little bit?
I used to play lacrosse, but I don't play that anymore. I'm trying to focus on hockey, but lacrosse is definitely a fun sport to get away from the game for a bit.
Would you say lacrosse had a pretty good factor into maybe some of the skill development towards your hockey game?
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely great agility and getting the feet moving and everything. It was great cardio, so definitely helped my game out with mental health too.
All right, Tyson, Tyson, sorry. Well, thanks for coming on the show on such short notice, and hopefully we can see you in camp down Swift Current next year, and hopefully get a good crack at the squad. If not, maybe we'll see you with the Legionnaires again. And I know Swift fans, they like to follow their prospects, so it's nice to have a couple of them down playing AAA.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks, Tyson. That was Tyson Yaremko of Swift Current Legionnaires. After the break, we will have JD on. We'll be talking some prospects and some signings from the Alberta Elite Hockey League, the Saskatchewan AAA League, and the Manitoba AAA League. We'll be right back after our sponsors here. Welcome back, everyone, to our AAA show here on ASTV in our newly expanded segment of kind of going over the commitments across Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. Bringing on the show here is JD. JD is the host of the Sask Sports Show on ASTV. JD is going to be joining me pretty frequently throughout the season, kind of just going over some of these commitments. JD, how's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty good. Thanks for having me on the show. It's exciting to talk about commitments because it's a big deal for these kids to sign either with an AJ, an SJ, BCHL team. You look into NCAA as well. Like, it's a big deal, or the WHL. It's a big deal for these kids, especially for the kids that with the WHL starting, they have that opportunity to possibly make the final roster, especially with this shortened season of only 24 games.
Yeah, it's exciting. And with the uncertainty of this current season, a lot of senior veteran AAA players haven't been so fortunate to be drafted. And these signings go a long ways for their career. It's going to continue it. And hopefully it's not the end of the road after junior hockey. Just going into, we'll start with the Alberta Elite Hockey League. A few signings over the past week, and I apologize if I missed a few. It's a lot of teams to cover in the short amount of time, but we'll try and get to it. The first signing, it happened actually during the show. This show being recorded on Tuesday night. It'll be airing obviously on Wednesday. Tyler Kashisti of the Sherwood Park Kings. He committed to the Humboldt Broncos. Kellen Yardison of the Calgary Buffaloes committed to Cranbrook of the BCHL, a new team that's in its second season, I believe, maybe first season.
Well, it'll be their first, hopefully, full season in Cranbrook.
Yeah, first official season, I guess. Young team there, so a veteran player like Kellen will be able to get some ice time, hopefully. Andrew Wallace, forward for the Red Deer Chiefs, committed to the Olds Grizzlies. And Dylan Bidek, the defenseman for the Calgary Flames AAA, committed to Canmore. And I apologize if I butchered any of those names.
Well, it's exciting. This, from the research that I've done on this Alberta Elite Hockey League, is there's like two stages, like when it comes to midget, or as people call it now, U18, is that there's basically a separation between the Alberta Midget Hockey League, and then the Alberta Elite Hockey League. So it's exciting. It's an exciting league. I haven't, unfortunately, been able to, track a whole lot of their league with numbers and whatnot, but it's, having any sort of elite hockey league, and especially with all, their hockey academies out there too that, probably compete, against, not maybe play against each other, but, competing for that, what was I going to say? That, credit of having who has the best hockey players. And, this young guy, Kellen Jartinson, I apologize if I butcher that name, in Cranbrook there. And like we talked about before, he's going to a new team that just came over. Last year was their first season. I don't think they got to play a whole lot of games. But, it's exciting to go to a new franchise. And obviously on the screen, you see that he's put up consistent numbers. Obviously in 5 games, he had 11 points. So, he's going to put the puck in the net. And he's also, with those 6 assists as well, sharing the wealth.
Yeah, and you see some consistency, that first year AAA, he played with the U16 team. He's above a point per game player. He obviously has the offensive side to his game, and then you go into that second season, his first full season of the U18 AAA. 19 points. That's a decent stat. There's stat lines only show so much, as we all know in hockey. But you go into this season, and you obviously see the jump that he's made in the senior season, the progress that he's having. It's good that a team like Cranbrook can see potential in a player. It's unclear whether or not, he might have had some interest from maybe a WHL team if the season would have went on. But obviously great for Kellen and his family to get the opportunity to extend his career.
Well, and especially too with Cranbrook losing their WHL team, the Cranbrook or the Kootenay Ice move into Winnipeg, and being able to bring in another junior hockey team might not be at the major junior level, but it's still a junior A in the BCHL, which is, just as competitive and fun to watch as all the other junior hockey teams, a part of the Canadian Junior Hockey League.
Yeah, definitely. What a lot of people who do not live in BC know is how much people out there love the BCHL. It's a competitive league. It's way more competitive than people think. There's a lot of the big population pool, and year in, year out, they're cranking out good teams that are constantly contenders for what was formerly known the RBC Cup. I believe it's the Centennial Cup now. But they always got a team in the race, and it's some good hockey, and it's been a pathway for a lot of college athletes.
Well, and I know we've talked about this before, and I think the last time I came on the show that the thing I like about the Junior A circuit and playing in the Canadian Junior Hockey League is that most of those players, they do commit to universities in the NCAA. With the WHL, because of the scholarship program that they provide for these kids for the number of years that they play in the league, most of them go play CIS all across Canada. But it is nice to see a league like that that's prone to sending kids to go play in the NCAA. Kids from BC that are going to go play in New Hampshire or in Boston or in or Denver or Minnesota or North Dakota or any of those teams, like getting that opportunity to go play college hockey, where it's a different. It's not like major junior where you're only playing 30 plus games a year, only on weekends and occasionally on a Thursday night and occasional weekend or weekday games, but you're mostly playing on the weekends like you were back at U18.
Yeah, the road trips in the BC League are some might get a little extended, but there's a lot of grind, and it gives you a good taste of the next level. It's a little more hockey serious. Most don't have the school to worry about, so players can have the time to develop their game and focus on their game a little more than they would in the AAA level.
Well, and even look at his stats from when he played in the Alberta Midget Hockey League. He had 19 points in 32 games, but he jumped up to that elite hockey league level, the Alberta Elite Hockey League. He had 11 points in 5 games, so you can tell that he did something over, in the off season to bring his game that much higher?
Yeah, it's 2 points per game player. It's going to be interesting to see what Kellen can do in Cranbrook. Obviously, with them being a relatively young team, just looking at their roster, they got some older guys, not quite as young as some teams can be, but there's going to be opportunity for him to maybe get some of those power play minutes possibly if he can come into camp strong and show that he can make that progression like he did this past season.
Well, and it's going to be exciting for him too. You just signed your commitment letter to go play junior A hockey in Cranbrook. A smaller community, a community of 20,000 people, but you got Kimberley, you got Fernie all around, and then you're so close to Alberta too. So I don't think it's that far of a drive for his parents. Might be 4 or 5 hours for his parents to come watch him play.
As we, we'll move on to the Manitoba AAA Hockey League here. We got a couple more commitments to look at from the past week, including one today. Keith Grooner of the Winnipeg Wild AAA committed to the Swan Valley Stampeders, the MJHL. Braden Knox yesterday, the Southwest Cougars committed to the OCN Blizzard, and Cale Anderson of the Kenora Thistles committed to the Can River Fighting Walleye of the SIJHL. One player we want to highlight, I guess, is Keith Grooner. He's been pretty consistent over the past couple of seasons, as you can see. He's been able to show that the U15 level, he's able to easily transition into this first year AAA. Only 1 point less and one more game played. Definitely shows that he's not afraid to take that next step.
Well, and unfortunately, he only got to play 2 games for the Winnipeg Wild there before their season got cut, like everybody else's. Even in the Saskatchewan U18 league, they only, I think the most was the contacts at 8 games. But it's tough on a player to create footage. Not only playing 2 games in a season, to create footage of, to give to teams, to send to junior teams, or to send to, colleges, or kind of whatever avenue you want to go down, to create that portfolio with not having any game film, from that current season. It looked like he was just shy of a point. He had 26 points in 32 games the year prior, and then the year prior to that, he had 27 points in 31 games. So he's a consistent player by the looks of his numbers. Obviously, I'm not from Manitoba. I haven't seen him play live. But looking at Swan Valley Stampeders roster, they got a few rooks on the team from their updated roster, but they look like they're more of a veteran team, having those those second and third year players playing for the team in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, which I don't have a whole lot of experience in, but I imagine that him and his family are very excited for that moment. Obviously, I don't know about you, Jared, but I know that I never got that to sign with a club team like that and play in a junior hockey in a league that's a part of something so big.
Yeah, I haven't either, but you can see the smiles on their faces. They're definitely excited. Keith's going to a great team. The Stamps, a relatively new team to the league. They joined in '99. That team. I grew up in Swan River, so for the first 14 years of my life, I grew up watching the Stamps, and the first few years of the team wasn't necessarily the smoothest. They struggled getting players to come, getting into the playoffs to start with, and getting past the first round. But the last 5 to 7 years, you're starting to see some growth with that team. They made a finals run a couple of years ago. They're kind of constantly around the top of the league in standings now. And Keith can be able to go to a good team. You mentioned not being able to play many games this season and how hard it is to get noticed. So you're relying a lot on scouts to talk to other scouts who've seen you play the past couple of years, talk to coaches. Keith's coach mentioned today in the Stamps press release of the signing, that he's an extremely hard-working player, intense competitor. He plays full 200-foot game. He prides himself on being defensive responsible and quite capable of making offensive contributions. So he kind of seems like a whole well-rounded player, and those are guys you can't get enough of in a wide-open junior league like TMJHL.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not very familiar on the league. And they're obviously in a league like in a junior league, you're going to have teams that are known to be dominant. And like you said, maybe Swan River had its misfortunes, like every team does. You look teams in each league. There's going to be rebuilding years for 2 to 3 to 4 years, depending on the team. But like I said before, I think this kid just probably on cloud 9, knowing that he's going to be able to compete for a spot on a junior A club.
Yeah, and like we said at the BC Hockey League, there it's all about getting that shot, right? And it's another level of hockey, and juniors at the end of the road for a lot of these players. You look at a lot of the undrafted college NHL free agents. A lot of those players either went through the U.S. Junior League, the BC Hockey League, the Alberta Hockey League, the CJHL as a whole, just because sometimes maybe it took a little longer for them to develop, or maybe it's a notice factor. But at the end of the day, it's another way to get noticed, another way to develop your game. And
like I talked about before, with the route with junior A hockey going to the NCAA, they're going to play college hockey anywhere. There's that ability to get an education.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, and like I said, the WHL has their perks. But if you can get a scholarship to go play anywhere in the United States, or and then there's a possibility too if you want to go and play in Europe, and play in Sweden or Germany or Russia or kind of wherever you're, Switzerland. That league there is very competitive, and just try to get yourself noticed, and and if all else fails, at least you got an education. If you're able to get a scholarship, you're getting a free education to a 4-year institution usually, and just something to fall back on.
Well, and it's going to be a great experience for a lot of these athletes too, right? College hockey scholarship, I imagine that's going to be a lot of fun. Taking in the U.S. colleges and that, just living the college life and playing some competitive hockey. But another thing to look at is you look at all these junior coaches, and they've been around the block. They've played some high-level competition, so to be able to absorb the wealth and knowledge that these coaches can pass on can go a long way in a player's development.
Oh yeah, and and most of the time when you get to the junior ranks or major junior, junior A, you have coaches or assistant coaches that have either played in the NHL or they've had experience in the AHL or Europe, or I know you talked to a kid from Yorkton and their head coach Ed Zawatsky. He actually played over in Germany, and for 9+ years, and then he was over in Pursuit of Excellence in Kelowna. So he has that that experience, and that's what you need for a young kid to get him to that next level, is a coach that's, for one, willing to teach kids to sit, work with those young guys, those rooks, those 16 or those 17 or 18-year-old kids,
mm-hmm.
depending on when you can jump into junior A, and then work with them until they're done and get them to that NCAA. And most of these guys did play college hockey too, so they have connections
mm-hmm.
wherever they went to play college hockey.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Connection is a big thing when getting noticed in the CJHL, and you got alumni from these teams who tend to keep an eye on their former teams too, right? So you got coaches, you got alumni who kind of keep eye, and once you play in a league like that, even if you're not necessarily labeled as a scout, if you've been around and you've watched the teams, people are going to call and ask you about, hey, have you been watching your former team? Like, what do you think of this kid? What do you think of this kid? The possibility is endless. It's just continuing your career, right?
Yeah, and it'll help these kids out greatly in the long run.
Before we transition into our Saskatchewan League, I'll just quickly go to a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back in a minute. Welcome back, everyone, to the AAA Show. I am your host, Jared Down. JD here on the show with us, talking some commitments. The next place we're going to go to for commitments is the Saskatchewan AAA Hockey League. It's been a busy past week. A pair of Warman Wildcats made waves. Kobe Delaney signing with the Ronge, and Nhl Comparison, I apologize if I butchered that. D-man for the Warman Wildcats. He committed to the Grand Prairie Storm. Cole Tanchuk, the Tisdale Trojans, to the Flin Flon Bombers. And Curran Wittenuk Pilot, Prince Albert Mintos, committing to the Ronge Ice Wolves. And Hunter Lolliker, goaltender for the Tisdale Trojans, signing with Flin Flon. Big week, lots of signings, a lot of teammates going to places. What's your first overall thoughts on it?
Well, it's good that these Saskatchewan boys are, and I know, I'm pretty sure it's Kobe. He is from La Ronge.
Yeah, I believe both him and possibly as a player we'll be talking to after. But yes, Kobe is from the Ronge, so good for him to sign with his hometown Ice Wolves. You know, growing up in a town that had a CJHL team in Swan River, you know, the hometown guys weren't always necessarily your goal scorers, your high point guys, but you know, they sold tickets and they're always fan favorites. They did the little things right. Sometimes they're enforcers, sometimes they're grinders, special teams guys, but the ability to bring some guys locally onto your team always goes a long ways.
Well, and what I was saying before is that it's nice to see these kids, these Saskatchewan kids play, you know, go to an SJHL team. You're trying to keep it in the province, which is great. Obviously, minus the gentleman from Warman. He's going to Grand Prairie, and I think there's a northern theme going to these signings here because all these teams are in northern Saskatchewan or Alberta. Oh, and I guess La Ronge is Flin Flon's in northern Manitoba, just right on the border.
Yeah, it's pretty much right on the border there. And another thing to notice is you see the all but one is an 03 born, which means they're in their last season. So it's good for some of these guys to, like we mentioned throughout the show, being able to find a team to go play for next year, despite kind of getting screwed over this season.
Well, sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No. You finish what you're saying.
I was just going to transition into our next point. So if you have anything else in these players, we'll move on to the next point.
Well, I just like those, you know, those kids, like you said, they're in their 03 or they're able to, there's that monkey off their back wondering where they're going to play next year. And they're going to have an opportunity to jump on a junior A team. That's great for them. And I wish them the best. And then I see our next one is just a La Ronge feeding frenzy with young talent coming up.
Yeah, La Ronge has been busy the past couple weeks here. They've been one of the more active SJHL teams picking up commitments. 5 in total, 3 forwards, 2 D-men. You can set a whole lineup there if you wanted to. But as you mentioned before you jumped on here, is the Ronge is a pretty young team.
Yeah, they got from what I saw, and this could change. This could be outdated information and whatnot. So I apologize to anybody if this number is incorrect. But from what I saw, they got 15 rookies on their squad. And they and from what I counted, they got 28 players, and that's probably their training camp roster, I would imagine. Hopefully for next season, or what their current roster looks like. But there's a lot of young guys, and they could be in a transition where a lot of their senior guys left to go on to play either college hockey or go on somewhere else, maybe go to university or kind of whatever their avenue might be. But it's nice to see that they're still drafting those young players for the future. Yeah,
and another thing to see here is you mentioned it being a young team and some of that leadership aging out. There's a pair of Saskatchewan AAA captains amongst the signings. Cash Arnson is the captain of the Swift Current Legionnaires, and I believe, just judging like we mentioned off his elite prospects photo, Parker Layton also the captain of the Warman Wildcats. So not only are you getting that young, new, fresh talent, but you're getting some guys who have some leadership qualities.
Yeah, and they know how to lead, so they could possibly jump into that role a little bit quicker in an SJ team, because they've done that leadership role, and they know what it takes to play at such a high level. Having that Saskatchewan midget AAA hockey league is so good for breeding and putting out talent in hockey players. It doesn't matter where they go. If they stay in Saskatchewan, they stay in Saskatchewan. If they go to the AAHL somewhere, that's great. If they go to another junior league in Manitoba or Alberta or BC, that's also great. But you've just seen so many good hockey players that have come from the province of Saskatchewan and have come from this league. And obviously that there are some that go play prep hockey as well. I know one of your last guests was he did play in Saskatchewan, and then he went and he played. Now he's playing in West Van.
He played West Van last season, and then he came back to the Contacts.
For this season.
For this season, yes.
It was Luke Corte, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kamloops Blazer draft pick.
Yeah, and another thing to point out here is I know Drayton Vitson. He, if I believe, sorry if I'm wrong on this, but we're looking at his profile, and he hasn't had a full season in AAA under his belt. He played some AA last year, and then played some AAA, and that's what's going to be his first full AAA season. But looking on the page there, he was still given the A. So that kind of shows the kind of kid he is and how he can help this Orange team next season. And you look at another guy like Parker Layton. He's also a hometown boy. So you're not only getting a hometown boy, you're getting a guy of leadership as well. So they're doing things right by the looks of it, and it's going to be exciting when they can see what they can do with it.
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, getting that hometown players too. You to add to your team. Obviously, Ronge, I don't know, is the size to put a whole team together from players just from Ronge. I don't know if it's just the key to a successful club is getting the right pieces from wherever you can get them and putting them in the same team. WHL players do it all the time. Like, you look how many different people are on each WHL team or SJ or AJ team that maybe aren't from Alberta or from, like these guys. They got a few guys from Quebec on their roster. They got 2 or 3 guys from Quebec, and then you go into Manitoba junior. Then that seems like that's a big thing is to bring in guys from different provinces, like Quebec. That's, obviously so close to Manitoba, depending on where the team is located. But, and same with like teams in the MJ, they're getting guys from the States to come play as well. So it's just a big part. You got to find the right players. You got to have good recruiting. You got to have good, but you need those local guys too, because their parents are going to get their whole family plus their friends to come watch their kid play. They're going to put seats and people in the stands.
Yeah, and like I think I mentioned, these players that they sign locally, just judging off their statistics here, is the stats don't jump out, but the other parts of their game do. Like I talked to Cash last week on my show here, and he's got 25 points in the last 2 years. Decent numbers, but like he said, he doesn't pride himself on necessarily that part of the game. He's that gritty player who can play some special teams, and he said that look out for Ronge, that he's gonna maybe bring a couple fights to the team. I know Ice Wolf fans love that, and that's gonna go very well with the battle of Ronge and Flin Flon. I've been to a couple of those games, and they get heated. They can be worse than the Battle of Alberta. So, these guys know what they're bringing in. Cash is, I wouldn't put it past him. He's going to sell some tickets. He's going to be a fan favorite if that's what he's going to bring to the game. But, you combine that with your local boys and some well-rounded D-man and forward, and maybe you can afford to bring in some of those more offensively gifted talents from out of province if you have a good base of local boys who can fill the other parts of the roster.
Well, and it'll be exciting too for these kids, signing that commitment letter and going and playing junior A hockey. Like there's no better feeling in the world. And, and these kids, I don't think they're the type of kids that are like, oh, I got signed by Ronge. It's in the middle of nowhere, but it's, you get to play some of the best hockey players in the province of Saskatchewan. You get to play against on a night in and night out basis. So, yeah. And just getting to that level too is an achievement in their own. And like you said, you talk to Cash, and he's not a guy that likes to puts a lot of points up, but he does the little things right, like what a lot of coaches look for. They're gritty in those corners, getting the puck, and they play special teams, and they kill penalties, or they're on the power play briefly, or they're, jump into different sides, different positions. If they're, a left wing and they're playing right, or because they need them to jump in there. That's just the kind of player that you need. It's not going to win scoring titles or anything like that, but it's going to benefit you because you're going to be the hardest working player out there.
Yeah, exactly. And, not everyone can be the goal scorers, right? And you look at the problems that can create in even the NHL. You can't have a roster full of strictly offensively gifted players, because when that happens, you're going to be struggling on that end of the ice and be giving up too much goals, and then you're not going to win games. You need to find those guys that are going to do, they're going to fill that third or fourth line, and the wing on the second line, or the wing on the first line as an energy guy, right? It's you need these character guys in the locker room.
Yeah, and if these guys can be those guys for their teams, then or obviously, sorry, we're on this segment, so if they can bring that to Ronge and buy into Ice Wolves culture, then I think they'll be fine, and we'll see them soon enough playing a full schedule with the team once hockey's back. Obviously, the AAHL just announcing their season that they're going to start, and different start dates for each league. But at least there's hockey, and I hope at some point, next fall, we can forget this ever happened and go back to playing, having fans in the stands and going to Blades games, or going to Bronco games, or going to wherever your home team's games are.
Mm-hmm. And well, like with CJHL, these teams tend to be the life of the town, right? And not having that atmosphere to go to has made for a pretty tough winter for a lot of folks. And it's good to see these teams still being active, trying to find these senior guys who are going to be aging out, and kind of just waiting on, the 04s and the 05s till they get a little older. But hopefully more of these 03 guys can find homes for the next few seasons. And going forward, hopefully we can see some hockey back.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I'm very wish all these kids congratulations for committing to junior hockey league clubs. I wish them luck in their successes, their future endeavors, and hopefully, like I said, we can get back to a regular hockey season where, you know, fans can go to the stands and you don't have to worry about games being canceled or postponed due to COVID. And I'm sick and tired of hearing about it. And it's unprecedented times, and the pandemic. It is like there's new words put in the dictionary because of this pandemic.
Yeah, I don't know what the new norm's going to be, but hopefully it's a full schedule and kids back in the rinks and fans and parents and grandparents back in the stands, and hopefully we can see a lot more of these big announcements to help cheer up some households that haven't been that happy this past season, and hopefully it's only up from here.
I hope so too, Jared.
All right, JD. Well, thanks for joining me. We'll probably see you quite a few more times to talk commitments throughout the year. Best wishes and stay safe.
Thanks, Jared. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yep. See ya. That was JD Houghton of the SAS Sports Show. He'll be on frequently, talking commitments, talking signings. I hope to bring on some advisors, some scouts, and maybe some GMs, and that once we get closer to the WHL draft, talk a little more in-depthly about some of these prospects. But thanks for joining me on the show, and we'll see you all next week.